I'm the mother of 3 children. I've been happily married for 10 years. 5 years ago, my husband and I began wonderful new jobs with a major employer. I was raised a Roman Catholic and studied dance and drama for many years. After college, I traveled. Today, I am 37 years old. My husband and I are both HIV positive. Now we have some of the symptoms of AIDS.
With this project, we seek to make you aware of the consequences of unsafe sex and promiscuous behavior. The fact is that any of us might be exposed to HIV/AIDS. Infected people are not the only ones who battle this illness. Family members also are touched by this epidemic. This presentation features individuals who are infected with HIV. They share how this illness has affected their lives and the lives of those around them. Also, the participants discuss their frustrations with the healthcare community and with a sometimes misinformed public. Please keep these people and their stories in your hearts.
Well, I told them exactly, you know, and the exact words were, I don't know how to tell you this, except just to blurt it out, and they were like, what, you know, what is it? What's wrong? And I kept saying, and I couldn't say it. Couldn't bring myself to say it. And I just closed my eyes and just said, I have AIDS. And just like that. And they both were just shocked. And my mom hugged me and held my hand. My dad made a beeline to the door. And changed my oil, which needed to be done. But I would have much rather a hug. And since then, that was a year ago, he'll send me an article or something, but he doesn't talk about it. We don't talk about it at all. I mean, since that hospital room, not another word. Not one word. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love me. I mean, he sends me money and he fixes things for me and he makes things for me. He made me this big old chest. He asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I told him I wanted a chest to keep my sweaters in, and he made me this humongous chest, and he helped me get a car. He does things, and that's just his way. But a year ago, I was devastated. I didn't appreciate his way then.
I have 2 children who are adults now. My daughter is 27, my son is 24. One of the hardest things I had to do was tell my children that I was HIV positive. Since my husband died when they were children, it created a lot of sadness within them. Even though they're grown, they didn't want to become orphans. So my daughter went into a period of fear where she didn't want me to tell anyone. And my son says that he only has 2 emotions, rage and rage. So he went through a period of extreme anger. He decided to move in with us and live on, I didn't have but 2 bedrooms, so he lived on our dining room floor for a year. But he got past that, and actually he was the one to encourage me to go public. It's very difficult, especially with the loss of their dad, for them to adjust to this. However, they've become activists, they've become advocates for people, they speak to people their own age, and they have done with it amazing things. My children have grown spiritually because of the virus, and they have risen to the challenge.
And I got into a relationship with a woman who was also in recovery, and just so, I mean, unfortunately, she happened to be infected too. I didn't know she was infected. She didn't know I was infected. We just kind of started dating, and that came out. So we dated for 3 or 4 years, and right when I made the commitment to get married, which was July of '95, I proposed, she accepted, and we set the date for December the 16th of 1995, which was 3 days after her birthday. Unfortunately, she died October the 5th of 1995. She almost took the secret to her grave. In other words, it wasn't until a week before she died that anyone in her family knew she was infected. She just felt she couldn't tell her children, she couldn't tell her mother, she couldn't tell anyone. And on the other hand, as soon as I found out I was infected, I told my whole family.
It's hard being a mother that's infected because you constantly, every day, wondering, are you going to outlive the child or is the child going to outlive you? And, you know, when I get sick or something, I get scared that I'm going to lose her because, you know, last time I got sick, she had to go stay with her godparents, and we were separated for 8 months. I mean, I had visits with her, but as far as her living with me, she lived with them for 8 months before I finally got stable enough to get her back. And I'm just kind of scared that, you know, if next time it may be longer. And, you know, that's the scary part.
Well, being a father with 2 teenage boys, it naturally concerns me. I know that when I was between the ages of like 12 and 14, which is where my boys are at 13 and 14, I know what I was doing at that time, and it really concerns me. And I guess the best thing that I can do for them is try to help them understand what I'm going through and what's possibly out there for them. If anything I say can help save their lives, or, you know, save the heartache of going through being infected, then I guess I've done my job as a dad. You know, I haven't told too many people. I've told my sponsor in my 12-step program, and of course, you know, the immediate family knows, and some of the people in my program know. It's kind of worrisome to me because of what it may do to the kids. People being so ignorant to what's really going on with this disease can be very hurtful, and the children could really be hurt in the process of people finding out that their mom and dad are HIV positive.
Most of the discrimination with HIV is all lack of education. And because my mother herself sat on my couch and said, this is God's punishment for the bad people in the world. And I was, oh, how am I ever going to tell my mom? But I found a way. I went through her priest, and he just said, you can't catch it, and it's not God's punishment. Maybe there are some lessons involved, and it does heal the families that are broken. If you do not make peace with your child, if your child has HIV and you have shunned this person from the family because that person is gay and or other disagreements on what that child grew up to be. When it comes to HIV, it's down to the brass tacks that this is your child, and they're going to be taken away from you at an earlier time, and heal it, do it. Spend your time well with love. It makes a big difference. And I have seen miraculous things happen with healings of the family.
I'm a mother of a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. Our lives have been changed drastically by this disease. A lot for the better. My family has reconciled all their differences because I'm going to die, and they know now life is short and take care of yourself and do the right things. My husband now has been very supportive. I've only been married to him 3 years, So 1 year into our marriage, I found out.
I have a 4-year-old son, and I don't know what the future holds for him as far as, I mean, I haven't shared it with his daycare, you know, because I haven't felt like they have a need to know at this point. But there will come a time when I will share that. You know, I have been really blessed to have a real supportive family, you know, and I have been blessed to have a support network outside of that family that was already in place because I'm in recovery. But I know that a lot of people aren't as fortunate, and I know, you know, the extent of the prejudice in this world, and it does. It has a terrible stigma, and just like any kind of prejudice, I think it begins with the children and how we teach the children about life and love and living together, and so I mean, you know, I talk freely about it with my 4-year-old, even though he doesn't know what I'm talking about, you know, because it's a part of his life, you know, and it will be a part of his life for as long as he lives, even after I'm gone.
That's true.
That's the thing, people don't know how to tell their family. When you find out, who do you talk to? You know, you talk to your physician says, well, tell your family. There's no written guidelines on how you break something.
manual on how to tell your family.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the old saying, AIDS, the way it heals. You know, the way it not only heals you physically in some ways, but emotionally, and it heals you spiritually, and it bonds and heals. And you have spoken about how it can heal with families, and to get in touch with those people that you have negated and neglected, and you know, and try to work on building some memories with people. So there is, ironically, there is an upside to it, because it does kind of bring us down to earth and hopefully gets us back in touch with the things that are most important, which is family. Because after money and after food and after like all the other stuff that we do, our 9 to 5 and all that kind of stuff, we have family.
My life was forever changed when I found out that I had this disease. And the lives of those around you will be forever changed too. And I mean, that's different for each person. My family, because I am healthy, I've never had any HIV-related or AIDS-related illness. They think that I've made it this long, that I will be healthy forever. And I've been very well blessed. I'm very healthy. There's nothing wrong with me. But they're overly optimistic about it. And they do treat you differently. Sometimes I catch my mother when she thinks I'm not looking, she's looking at me. And sometimes she's sad for me and concerned. Every time any little thing happens to me, she's overly concerned. She always has been. She's my mother.
Me and my daughter both are in our last stages of AIDS, and it's hard, you know, to wonder which one's going to go first. You know, I mean, that's something that's really hard to deal with. And, you know, my mom, she really don't deal with it. She knows we have AIDS. She'll tell people that we have AIDS, but she won't think about it. She won't think about the consequences or anything like that. She'll tell you in a heartbeat that she won't think about it. And it's just, you know, like I said, you know, it's very hard to deal with your family and everything, knowing that, you know, the next time I get sick, it may be my last time. Because, I mean, I just died last time I got sick. And it was scary being in the hospital, especially when my husband wouldn't even come up there to see me.
When we first told the kids that we were positive, HIV positive, it was a real scary time for me. The uncertainty of the questions they may ask and what their reaction may be. They took it much better than I thought, but I think that they didn't really understand at the time the full.
And we spent a lot of time preparing. Remember, we anticipated questions. We spent a lot of time talking about our own feelings, trying to deal with our own feelings together, so we could best try to figure out educational ways of telling them. And I agree with my husband. They did take it a whole lot better than we anticipated it. fill the room with love and understanding and naturally concern for their mother and father.
You know, once you tell Mama, you can pretty much tell anybody. And my family has grown so much closer together, and they just constantly write me and say they love me, and what can they do for me? We'd have never been this close without AIDS. AIDS is really a blessing in a lot of ways. And I know there are lonely, alone people listening that are saying, how could he say that? I'm here and my family rejected me, and I have no support. And I just hope that somehow you can connect with God and find a friend, see someone, go to a CARES organization, go to a liberal or an open-minded church and find some help. It's okay to talk about it. It's part of the healing.
I'm learning about women with HIV and how it affects us differently from men. Women suffer from this illness in particular ways. We have less access to medication and treatments. We worry about losing our children, as well as our homes, jobs, and insurance if we're fortunate enough to have it. Most of the research has been conducted for men. Women traditionally take care of everyone else around them before taking care of themselves. At the beginning, the government assumed this to be a gay-only disease. It is not a disease limited to drug users and prostitutes either. Only gradually, and far, far too late, did we become aware that it is everyone's disease.
My doctor's mind is opening up a lot more in the last couple of years than when we first started. And that's really encouraging because he asks me what I'm doing, and he's now involved in nutrition workshops, which he never would have really been involved with before. So I think us stubborn sort of patients that are educating the doctors are very helpful to the doctors, and maybe they can help other people too.
Yeah, and you know, it's really sad that a lot of us don't feel empowered enough to do that, to educate the doctors. I have a woman that I see, and
A woman?
well, she's a clinical nurse practitioner
Yeah.
under a doctor, but I've been seeing her probably since about 3 months after I found out I was positive, and she's been wonderful in the fact that I feel more comfortable talking about a pap smear or whatever, but when I talk about alternative medication, she's like, okay, good, fine, whatever. You know, and skips right on over that, like it's, you know, like it's, okay, as long as it won't hurt you, you know, do what you want to do, but it doesn't mean anything, you know, and it's been 3 years next month, and I just went the other day, and I told her what I was doing and how good I felt, and she, for the first time, asked me, well, what are you taking, you know? And could you get me some information about that? And I'm like, yeah, right away, you know, I'll fax you some, you know, because it's taken a long time to just get to that point, you know, to where she's interested, you know, and you know, I don't want to make excuses for them, but maybe it's because it's so difficult in the medical field with their slow process of the drugs being approved and everything, you know, that's got to be real frustrating for them, and I guess they reach a certain point where their mind becomes more open. But I wouldn't know about any of these things if it hadn't been for talking to other HIV positive people who have been around longer than I have, you know, and reading everything I can get my hands on.
My daughter's positive and she's 2, so she's being seen over at a college that's a teaching college in hospital. And I feel like I need to be armed because they're so quick, because she's so little, they want to put her on the drugs, and I don't want to put her on it. So I try to find out as much as I can. So I don't feel like I'm being a bad mother because I say, no, you aren't going to put her on AZT. And I'm trying to, you know, make sure nutritionally she gets what she needs.
I was in the hospital about a month ago, and nurses would come in and sit with me for 30 minutes or so asking me questions about HIV. I was just shocked at how little they knew. I was not there for a standard HIV-related illness, and so they were not nurses who usually deal with people with HIV. And they knew only the basics. And I knew more about my complications than they did. And I was shocked. And they just came in one at a time. There were probably 10 nurses who came in and sat down with me to ask me, what is it like? How can we respond to you? They really cared, but they were pretty uninformed, I thought, on just the basic information about our illness.
As soon as I became aware, that I was HIV positive, I was tested at the health center, And at the time, you didn't give your name or a number. So immediately, I went to my doctor after that, and I was really alarmed, and I was worried about myself. And I immediately told my doctor, because you think of your doctor as being compassionate, caring. He helps you take care of yourself by leading you along with your health. Immediately when I told my doctor at that time about it, he was horrified. The look on his face said it all. And from that point forward, every time I would go to the doctor just for like a sinus infection or a simple illness, none of it was HIV related, he definitely treated me differently, and so badly that I didn't want to go to the doctor anymore. And that's how, I called the crisis call center. I'm like, hey, I'm HIV positive. Help me find a doctor that will help me be knowledgeable about this and be understanding about it, without treating me like I'm an alien. I can't be your good patient one time and you're friendly and nice to me, and the minute I tell you something that's of that great importance to my health, you turn your back on me.
I went to the first doctor in town. It was the very first AIDS doctor I went to. Big doctor in town. Famous AIDS doctor. I looked him in the eye and I said, okay, if I stop smoking cigarettes, if I stop doing drugs, stop getting high, start working out, lose weight, will it help me? And he said, you're bargaining with me. AIDS is a terminal illness. Now that was 5 years ago. I have since run into him again and brought that up and said, that was wrong. And he put his arm around me and said, we learned from our past. I know that he has learned from his experiences the last 5 years. And I ended up not caring for him very much in the long run anyway. And I went to another doctor, and this doctor was willing to compromise from the so-called medical protocol for AIDS and tell me, we have no cure for this disease. I'm here to tell you what I know, and then you decide what to do. And so I combine AZT with aloe vera juice and the chlorella and the chlorophyll and the green magma and the exercise, and cut back on smoking and try to get a little exercise and eat right. So, to find a doctor that's willing to work with you and say, hey, I don't have all the answers, that meant a lot to me. And I'm in love with this doctor. I think he's the best.
I have a doctor in Jackson, Tennessee, through the West Tennessee Regional Health Department that works with me, and he's very, very, very caring, and he shows it. He takes time, quality time, with me, and I assume with all his patients, when I go to visit, and he's very, very good. I'm comfortable with him because I feel that he cares, and he's concerned about me, not just his position or what he's gaining from his position, but I feel like he cares about me. Now, I have a general family doctor that I can't say that about. I was his first patient that he diagnosed as HIV, so he's not, maybe he is now, but at that time in '93, he wasn't well learned on the subject, but I still feel that he could have shown a little compassion when he gave me the diagnosis, when I go to him just for general problems. It's like he's in the room with me, but he's not there with me. And that bothers me. And I have talked to my doctor in Jackson concerning that. I'm not comfortable with him at all, but I stay with him, I guess partly because You know, he's the one that gave me the diagnosis or what have you. You know, but the medical staff is lacking.
My children, I felt alone and completely isolated. I was terrified. I trembled with fear. I began to read everything I could get my hands on. My head is filled now with the new medical terms such as symptomatic, asymptomatic, viral loads, T8 ratio, T-cell counts above and below 500, opportunistic infections. Names of strange diseases swarm in my consciousness. Toxoplasmosis, cytomegalovirus, and on, a long list of possible medications, AZT, DDI, DDC, D4T.
The program that I work with is called First Person. And I go out into the community and speak to churches, classes, other community-based organizations targeting teenagers about the real picture of what it's like to be HIV positive. And to let them know, to kick some knowledge about how it is and it's not transmitted, and how I was just, 6 years ago, I was just as invincible as they were. If you hear me speak, the main thing that I tell I could say everything I've got to say is that you can protect yourself. You can. This is not airborne. This is not even cancer. This is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. You acquire it, just like you acquire a degree, just like you acquire a job. None of those things just come at your doorstep. You do some things to get it. Condoms are not the cure for AIDS either. And the only safe sex is no sex.
Most important thing is we need the education on it, you know. Some people say, oh, don't touch me because you're HIV positive, you know. You won't get it that way. Some people are just so negative about it. So they tend to ignore it and they turn their face.
I think in order to begin to remove the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS, first of all, we need education. And we need to understand, all of us, that this is not a disease that only affects a certain group of people. It affects us all, and it's starting to show its face in every facet of society at this point. So I think that we need to understand, like I said, as a group of people, that I'm not dirty. I can't affect you by shaking your hand. I think education is the key to begin to remove that stigma. Our 13-year-old son came home from school one day with tears rolling down his cheeks. He had a class in school about HIV and AIDS, and some of the things that the children were saying hurt this boy real bad, knowing that his parents are both infected.
The stigma of the disease keeps women, men, everybody silent. And when you're silent, you don't get any support. And this is a disease that we're all at risk. If you have sex, you're at risk. It's not a gay disease. It's not a, it's a disease that anyone could get if you have sex.
One way, or one of many ways, that we can try real hard to get through to African American people and other minorities is through their church. I think that is a very big issue. It is a concern. Ministers need to enlighten their congregation and talk openly more about AIDS and contracting AIDS.
This is not a disease that God has brought his wrath down upon people to teach them a lesson. This is a disease like any other disease. It's everybody's disease, and it's destroying me, but it doesn't have to destroy anyone else if we can start preventing it now. If we can reach these kids now, if we can reach parents now, if we can reach drug addicts now, if we can tell them it can stop now.
My children, being your mother is the best thing I have done. Motherhood has been the biggest challenge of my life. Throughout these years, many things have happened that you've not understood. I hope these letters will help you understand better. I wish to share with you things that are difficult to talk about. Not only illness, but also the power of love that is greater than illness and even greater than death. Time is no longer on my side, and there is so much you need to know. You need to know the greatness I see in each of you, the potential for giving so much to life. You are the future I no longer have. You are the symbol of my life and of my love.